Good morning, everyone. So good to see you all here. I thought that perhaps the Sunday after Thanksgiving, I would be speaking to an empty sanctuary on my day back after being home and isolating and being positive and negative and positive and blah, 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 blah. We are in a confusing time. I wish that, and maybe it's just kind of the way life is. There isn't, and it's very Unitarian Universalist, I think, not to have one way of doing things. And I'm so happy to have you here. And now let us listen and to have you who are on Zoom. Let me just, I've got something in the middle so I can't see you all. There's Lila and Deb and Joan and BJ and Fred and Karen and Joe and Peter, who are isolating right now. Good to have all of you here. Oh, and Nancy Beeson, I can't see your face, but I can see your name. And Connie and Karen and Tracy and Tom and Paula, welcome. As we listen to the sound of this peace bowl, we affirm our collective hope for peace on this earth, for peace for Ukraine, for Afghanistan, and for the people who are mourning in Colorado Springs and Chesapeake, Virginia. We acknowledge also that these lands that we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people, the Witpukepas, the Tolkepayas, the Quevkepayas, and the Yavapai. Those are names for the different Yavapai groups that lived in different parts. And one of those means the people of Granite Mountain. The seasons are changing around us. We see fawns every single day following their mamas to the feeding trough of the man next door. Some of you probably have that as well. And I am grateful for their presence. The air is cold now in the morning. We wait a little bit before we go on walks, and soon we will have a dusting of snow. The world keeps changing, and the choir is going to sing for you a song. And think of this with the pandemic when we talk about refraining from embracing. Turn, turn, turn.
Everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. To
Good morning. Welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in beautiful Prescott, Arizona. I'm Tracy Augustine, your worship associate today. It's wonderful to be here with you. I hope you have been enjoying this beautiful weather. These warm days have been so lovely. We are glad you are able to join us here in person or those on Zoom. Hi, you all. On this lovely holiday weekend. We also hope you remain in good health. Now, please take a moment to set your phones on worship mode if you haven't already. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. Please join us after the service for coffee and conversation in Davis Hall. And for those on Zoom, you'll be able to join the breakout rooms so you can chat with each other. If you're joining us for the first time, and I see a few of you are, please check out our website at prescottuu.org for more information about GPUUC. And if you're here in person, there'll be time to introduce yourself at the end of the service. And then we'd love for you to stay and meet some members. We thank our pianist, as always, Lena Hubin, our choir director, Mary Lou Prince, our choir, the Granite Peak Singers, Deirdre Schwartz in the back doing tech and sound, and all our Sunday morning volunteers. In addition to the announcements that you saw on the screen before, and you'll see in Davis Hall after the service and on Zoom, you can also read them in the weekly Peak newsletter, on our website, and in Reverend Patty's videos. Sandra Palacios, our Faith Development Coordinator, is teaching ages 5 and older across the street at our Faith Development Building. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Chris Hawthorne. Today we light the chalice with these words that I received about receiving from my friend Kevin Johnson, who arrived at Thanksgiving with the miraculous gift of having been told by his oncologist that there was no detectable cancer from his latest CT scan after being diagnosed with stage 3 esophageal cancer. He wrote these amazing words, and I just did a little excerpt. I'm grateful for how many of you supported me and my family this past year. I have been given an extraordinary gift of knowing how much I have been and am loved. So many of you let me know what I meant to you. I really had no idea, having never held that favorable view of myself. So you helped restore that love in me, and for this, I thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I've been hungry for that sound for 2.5 years, so I kind of insist upon it when I'm here. I wonder, listening as I was singing that song, Turn, 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 what time is it now for us? I think I need to give a sermon on that sometime, but I was thinking, looking around, and I've been thinking this for weeks about how we've entered this time with the pandemic. This seems even less clear than it did, especially when I was feeling sick. But now I have an excuse for every time I forget something, which is the hidden blessing of all of this. But I just want to recognize maybe it's a time for us to truly learn how to treat one another as without assuming that we all have the same ideas, because we all have, we're all different. And I keep talking about that from this pulpit and in my newsletters. So let us remember, we're all kind of struggling with these vestiges, this pandemic that seems like it will not end, in a different way, to feel our safety, but also to have that beauty of connection we have longed for all of these years. It is good to be here in person. And I am grateful to all of you for your prayers and good wishes that supported us both through our illness and recovery. I wonder, did you watch the sunrise this morning? How many of you watched the sunrise? It's later now, so I watched that glow happen. We don't have an amazing far view. We look into the trees, and it's like there's this glow that starts to happen, this pink that starts to happen. And then the trees are filled with this glow of sunlight and are transformed. Hafiz wrote this: even after all this time, the earth never says to the sun, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole sky. Let us stand thinking, let us rise in body or spirit and consider a love like that as we sing, Gather the Spirit. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks. And welcome, Judy. They let you out. Yay! Whew. I always feel a sense of freedom when I know Judy has been let out and allowed to come to our service. Thank you. Another part of the complexity of this time. Let us say together the covenant of our congregation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. And now I invite you into a different kind of time. Let us listen to the sound of our peace bowl once again. And let us breathe together. Let us breathe, considering that sun that rose high in the sky this morning. This is the time in our service when we allow ourselves to open to the very real sense of community we have in this sanctuary, and also that we have through our online Zoom. I'm grateful for Zoom that has allowed us to gather during this time. And those of you who might be ill, as I was, I'm so happy to see you with us. So let us consider this earth beneath us, this earth that has held us through our lives, that has felt the running of our toddler feet, the movement, our movement across this earth, and holds us during all the times of our lives. We recognize that each of us carry with us joys and sorrows. We hold with us the beauty of the sky, those clouds above this beautiful place. We continue to hold Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Poland, the tragedy and courage, and now the onslaught of cold, the joy when lights went back on in different towns in Ukraine, the joy of survival at difficult odds. We also hold those who lost loved ones just a week ago in the shooting in Colorado Springs, and a couple of days ago, those in Chesapeake, Virginia. We hold the mourning they are feeling of a loss of safety. In this sanctuary, on both sides, we have prepared bowls of water and stones that will symbolize our joys and sorrows. And Tracy Augustine will put stones in the bowls for those that I speak, names I speak. And then you will have a chance in a moment to come up. I have joy for Randy Phillips, who had an excellent prognosis on Tuesday, or he might not say excellent, but a good one, a good one. Okay. And Terry Eggleston, who proposed marriage, and she said yes. And we hold that joy, that great joy in this place. We also hold Frank Beeson, who, and his wife Nancy. And Frank has been in the hospital and he's now home. And let us put our prayers towards them of being able to get with a physician soon. All of you know the sorrow of not being able to do that. We also hold Sharon Watt, who had heart surgery this week and who is recovering, was in the ICU. I also want to hold all of those. This week was a week for big family gatherings, for big memories in our minds of things that happened in the past that make us feel the loss of those who are not around our tables. Let us hold those people who this week brought a feeling of loss, and also Indigenous people who feel in this celebration a denial of their humanity. We hold Joe Sprague and Peter Eldridge, who are healing from COVID. We hold Bob Coulter, who is in hospice, Bill Richards, who is in hospice, and Sally, his wife, who is by him, and Marilyn, who is by Bob. And also the loss that is still heavy in the lives of Kat Euler, Dan Reardon, and Eric Day. And now I invite you on Zoom to write in the chat names you would like us to hold in this community. And also in this sanctuary, if there are names on your hearts and minds, please say them and I will try to repeat them so that we can include our Zoom people in those names. Nobody on Zoom yet. Is there anyone you would like to lift up out in the congregation? Yes, Yvonne. Oh. Oh. Yes. Yes, for the loss of Phil, Yvonne's brother and Lydia's son, just in 1998, is that what you said? And the loss of a husband and father who was known to many in this community. We hold that loss. And Jack, the arrival of baby Zoe Anderson on Thanksgiving Day. And Jack Wood also is recovering from COVID. I talked with him on Thanksgiving Day and he had a pretty happy voice and he was going to do a lot of eating. So I hope that means he has his taste back, which is so miserable. Family, Deb Walter, family healing in our family. We are joyful and thankful for these wonderful miracles. So a joy of healing. I know she went to a family gathering and there was healing there. Thank you, Deb. Thank you. Anyone else? Lydia's friends, Taya and Marcia. Marta, thank you. And Karen? Oh, and we hold Norma West in our circle of community. And now I invite you, as you would like to come up and put your own stones in these bowls. We have 2 areas, so and you can just listen to the music and meditate if that's what you would prefer.
Good morning. You've heard that before. Let's hope for the best. So far, so good. The answer to the Reverend's question about what is life, life is one damn thing after another. And I have several examples. This church was my life for many years. I was an integral part of the woodwork. I mopped, I pared, I did all sorts of things. And then at one point I decided I need to take a break. So I took a break, a year and a half off, and came back. And it was the best decision I've ever made besides marrying my wife. Things that life has given us are numerous, and our gratitude is enormous. Some things that you need to know about me is last year, August 15th was my birthday. And my wife came into the bedroom and said, good morning, dear. And I said, good morning. And she said, happy birthday. And I said, well, how old am I? I don't function well in the morning. And she said, you're 88. How the hell did that happen? 88 years old? That's old. I'm a public health nurse by experience. I've had lots of experience. I'm almost done. The second was our wedding anniversary on the 20th. And this was a real shocker. How long have we been married? 62 years. How did that happen? I'm very glad to be back, and this is a wonderful bunch of people, and I love you all.
Thank you, Randy. And that was Randy Phillips, who was not in your line of sight, I'm telling you, on Zoom. Thank you. Thank you. We are happy that you are back. And now let us breathe together, and please join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, great Spirit, we are grateful for this earth that cradles us through all the times of our lives. We are grateful for the ways that we are able to share in joys and sorrows. We ask for our concern, our compassion, to grow, to be nurtured in this community, to stretch out into our neighborhoods and into the world. We ask for ways that people who are without heat in very cold places on this earth, that ways can be found for them to find warmth. We give thanks for this place and for all the names that were not mentioned. We hold them as well. In your many names we pray. Amen. And now I invite you to sing with the piano. We will sing Walking, Walking with You. Walking, walking with you, walking with you is my prayer.
As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather here each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. November's recipient is the Salvation Army Winter Warm-Up. Please read about them on the slide. To give online, the link is available in the chat if you are on Zoom. or you can also go to the website. Now, please enjoy this offertory music played by Lena, Over the River and Through the Woods. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through these offerings. What is given in love is received in gratitude.
This reading is from one of my favorite books, Braiding Sweetgrass. If you have not read it, please do. This is about the sacred bond of reciprocity, written by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I sat once in a graduate writing workshop on relationships to the land. The students all demonstrated a deep respect and affection for nature. They said that nature was the place where they experienced the greatest sense of belonging and well-being. I would say that. I imagine many of you would. I've heard that from you. They professed without reservation that they loved the earth. And then I asked them, and I'm asking you, do you think that the earth loves you back? No one was willing to answer that question. It was as if I had brought a two-headed porcupine into the classroom, unexpected, prickly. They backed away slowly from that question. Here was a room full of writers, passionately wallowing in unrequited love of nature. So I made it hypothetical and asked, what do you suppose would happen if people believed this crazy notion that the earth loved them back? The floodgates opened. They all wanted to talk at once. Knowing that you love the earth changes you, activates you. Knowing that knowing that you love the earth changes you. But when you feel that the earth loves you in return, that feeling transforms the relationship from a one-way street into a sacred bond. I'm sorry, I think we're going to need to skip the song that about the welcome table, because we may have children come at the end of our service. And I'm looking at the time, and I apologize to those of you who are waiting for that song. I'm sorry, choir. In 1845, Henry David Thoreau, a Unitarian, left his urban life in Boston, and he built a small house where? Walden Pond. And his simple life, who many of us have loved to read about, seemed to inspire pity. I wonder what experience caused him to write the following. If I knew for a certainty that a man was coming to my house with the conscious design of doing me good, I should run for my life, as from that dry and parching wind of the African deserts called the simoom, which fills the mouth and nose and ears and eyes with dust till you are suffocated, for fear that I should get some of his good done to me, some of its virus mingled with my blood. I wonder what inspired Henry David Thoreau to write those words. I can only imagine people coming to his simple house wanting to improve it, wanting him to eat something other than the squirrel stew he often had. They wanted to perhaps make his place a little nicer, a little warmer against the Massachusetts winter, instead of just sitting with him and enjoying the beauty. If they had come with that reciprocity we have been talking about, what an experience they might have had sitting with him in front of his hut on Walden Pond. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I have an idea to do something for someone. I imagine some of you are blessed with that happening, where you wake up and you think, oh, I need to do this thing. And sometimes it works out, but often the idea that I have works out quite differently than I expect. My dearest friend in seminary, Sue Axtell, was dying of an aggressive cancer, a bone cancer. And one night, I woke up in the middle of the night and I had the idea of making her soup. I would just make 2 batches when I made mine for the week, so that she wouldn't have to do so much cooking. It seemed like such a perfect idea. I felt really good about it. But then I made her some soup and I brought it over to her, and I discovered she didn't like soup, and she particularly didn't like my soup. I'm really glad that she didn't just put up with it for the next year. So instead of fixing her soup and leaving it at her door, we met for conversation, and I received so much of Sue's wisdom and humor in her last years. Sometimes my desire to give, my good ideas about what people need, have shut my eyes and my heart to what there is for me to receive. If I have done that to any of you, I hope that you forgive me. Between my friend and me, there was a 2-way communication. She was very ill. She seemed like such a perfect person to give to. And yet she wanted to give. She wanted someone to receive her wisdom and laughter and buoyant life while she was still on this earth. And I think that's true with everyone. As I've been preparing for this sermon, and I'm especially directing this to Jack Bennett, I have been increasing the number of times I walk the steep road, sometimes more like this, up to the water tower. And walking up that road, I thought of and I prepared for the vigil we had on Monday evening for the people who were killed and injured in the hate-motivated shooting in Colorado. Hate crimes destroy our sense of safety. They make us feel vulnerable. And when we lose that sense of safety, it is our instinct to hole up, create a bunker, a place where no one can get in, a place where it is almost impossible to receive. I wanted to call a vigil because gathering is what we can do. It can help us get out of our bunkers where we can receive solace from one another. A vigil can be a plan, a place to receive that healing balm of community. The safety that Unitarian Universalist congregations have created through the years is what drew me at first to Unitarian Universalism. And those feelings of safety are affirmed when we gather for worship services, when we gather to sing, when we gather, looking at Marianne, to study together. I wonder when your feelings of safety have been shaken. As a nation, we were shaken to our core when we heard about and we watched those twin towers go down. In those first few days after that happened, I was moved by the nations and individuals who reached out to us as a nation and as individuals. At that time, we lived in a mountain village in Japan, and people came over with flowers, and they sat with us in silence, in tears, creating a kind of vigil that lasted for days. We as a nation, we as people who love to give, we love that news footage of us giving to others. And I wonder if only we had at that time shifted into receiving. I wonder how that shift into receiving might have transformed us. We have that choice as individuals when we face our own tragedies. We can make our own bunkers. We can lash out, or we can choose to receive. When we receive, we open ourselves up. We are vulnerable. And in our vulnerability, there is the possibility for transformation and healing. It is in that place, I believe, where beloved community is born. It's born out in the open, not in a bunker, with that sun shining on us, which, as Hafiz expressed in my opening words, has a love that lights up the sky. On Wednesday, when I walked up to that water tower for the third time, I still haven't made the fourth yet. My legs tired, but feeling quite proud of myself. I looked out at the forests. I can see Thumb Butte from there. And I saw that vulnerability of that land, the vulnerability to fire, the sorrow of climate change that can often cut me off from listening. So I opened my ears and I sat on a bench for a rest and I listened to Granite Mountain. She was singing, "I will survive. I will survive." So what does Granite Mountain have to do with 9/11? a vigil, and listening instead of soup making. These experiences are examples of opening to that receiving end of reciprocity. And mostly they are asking us to live more deeply and more connected. In the reading, we heard these words, knowing that you love the earth changes you, activates you to defend and protect and celebrate. But when you feel that the earth loves you in return, that feeling transforms the relationship from a one-way street into a sacred bond. To create that sacred bond, we must open ourselves to receiving. I can offer many personal experiences as evidence over and over again when I got out of my bunker that I carried around with me, and opened myself to receive, and everything changed. I found the healing that I needed, and ordinary relationships became sacred bonds. I grew up in a goal-oriented religion, and I've always fought goals. I have given sermons against goals. And I always encourage myself to think of the present. I'm a 1 foot in front of the other kind of person. But today I have a goal for me and for you that I'd like for all of us to take up. That goal is this: connect with someone every week. Connect in all that reciprocity. Don't just drop something off, but connect. Listen to another human, as I've been talking with you about listening to the trees. I've tried to add 15 minutes, but it often stretches to 30 minutes to my walk so that I can listen to neighbors. And sometimes there are miracles in that time, very human ones. When I was walking on Thanksgiving Day, a neighbor told me of delivering meals. And then she said exactly what this sermon is about. I was going to drop it off, but they invited me in, and we sat for a whole hour. And what a wonderful person, what wisdom they had for me on that day. It was a miracle, she said to me. So if any of you have that thought, looking around Zoom or looking around you in this sanctuary, I haven't seen so-and-so in an age. Whatever barrier you have between picking up a phone, knock it over. Break out. Break through that barrier and give people a call. As I have been trying to call people, I have felt lifted. So instead of thinking of all the ways we can't meet easily, because circle suppers might still be dicey, some of us might not like doing it. If some of you want to do it, start it up. Don't complain to me we don't have them. Please, please. Go for a walk with people. Reach out, ask how they are, and listen. You're doing something, you're giving something, but then shift. Shift to that feeling of receiving. I've seen that happen in our neighborhood outreach pantry, in the way that neighbors are coming to our faith development program. And when they come to our pantry, we learn about their lives. I hear stories of that happening in the Raven Boys men's group and in our women's groups. These events of mutual giving and receiving have turned the tides of history. I wonder if you remember that historic handshake between Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat. You remember that? Oh my gosh. Many of us come to this place, our hearts broken by our experience of not being received, of our gifts being rejected in other places. The words and presence that we receive and give in this place, I believe they hold the secret to healing the wounds of our hearts, to opening us to new ways of thinking, and maybe not changing our minds, but opening our minds to new thoughts. Let us together recognize chances to receive. I hope I start waking up in the night thinking of chances to receive as much as chances to give. For I believe that we can build a love so great that it spreads out of this community into the greater world beyond our doors, around our neighborhoods, and up into that sky with those changing clouds illuminated by the sun. May it be so. And we have a wonderful surprise waiting for you. After we sing our closing song, we are going to move into Davis Hall. And our children are there, and they are there. They have treats to give you. And I want you to think about that attitude of receiving with them. Learn their names. Sandra and I didn't know exactly if this would happen because some children were calling in sick yesterday. But we have enough to do this. And we are preparing. I want you to open your hearts to these children that many of you have wanted to have in the congregation. I've heard this over and over. Try to learn their names, ask them questions, but not those questions adults ask. Try to remember when you were 5 and what questions you found interesting. But this is the beginning, because I want to start we have many new children now. And I want, when they come here, I want them to not be uncomfortable. So this is the getting to know you time, which is the best. It's the most time when we need to receive. Not try to tell people who we are, but receive who is there. So now, with that in mind, I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and we will sing our closing song, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours and paths, we come with praise now we are not going to extinguish our chalice, but we are going to invite our people on Zoom to go into breakout rooms. Hi, Norma, lovely to see you. And for the rest of you, we are going to, for those of you who feel comfortable, again, some of you might not, but first of all, we need, so you guys are going into breakout rooms. We're not extinguishing our chalice because this opening and receiving is part of our service. We're not going to say, now everybody go home. I want you, if you feel comfortable, and I began this service talking about our differences. So if you don't feel comfortable, stay in the sanctuary for a bit and I will greet you. But first I want to ask, are there any people who are new here today who would like to introduce themselves, who are visiting?